Don't settle for bad socks. Get comfort and grip at an affordable price with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Choose from 18 different colors at puregripsocks.com.
On the market for a new pair of boots? Well, here are the top 5 myths about high-end or quote-unquote expensive football boots. And I want to be clear in saying that I don't think high-end football boots aren't worth it, because if you play a lot and are super dedicated to the game, in many aspects, I think they're worth every penny. But I do think there are a lot of people that are looking to buy maybe their first pair of high-end football boots and need to have some more, let's call it realistic expectations for what they're actually buying. Because not everything you see in the marketing, watch on the internet, or hear from people is actually true. And if by chance you are interested in a new pair of football boots, you can get all the latest ones along with exclusive SR4U coupon codes to get them below their normal retail prices via the first link down below. And really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy these types of videos, drop a like on this one and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2023. Perhaps the most important thing to note when it comes to buying any pair of expensive football boots, and I feel like this is something that often gets misunderstood whenever I give a positive review of any given boot, is that expensive football boots will not make you play better. And that's not to suggest that there aren't objective performance differences when it comes to comparing particularly super low-end boots to super high-end boots. There are certainly aspects of top-end models that will objectively be better than low-end ones, but do those translate into a true advantage or performance gains that are significant enough to make you play better? Absolutely not. Or at least that's not the case in the vast majority of situations. And that's not to say that getting a pair of high-end football boots that you're really excited about won't boost your confidence or perhaps motivate you to practice more, perhaps even play a little bit better, but these are things that are purely subconscious and not traits that I think are truly a result of a high-end pair of football boots versus a low-end pair of football boots. So in terms of what they change in the real world, in physical form, there's really nothing about a high-end football boot that will make you a better player. Now, this is a really common misconception where a lot of people think if they spend $250 versus $80 on a pair of football boots, they are going to get something that is more durable and will last them a longer period of time. And that is entirely possible. I think in certain situations, a made in Japan Mizuno product, not only is the quality of materials significantly better than the average football boot, but the way that they are put together, the build quality is honestly phenomenal compared to most other options. In that situation, those boots might last you a little bit longer than something much cheaper. But more often than not, when you're talking about a budget-friendly football boot versus a high-end one, that high-end product is going to have thinner, more pliable, and typically softer materials, which might translate into a better overall fit, feel, and general comfort, but that does not necessarily lend itself well to lasting longer. You're often going to find that high-end football boots are lighter than cheaper ones, and when you have less material and thinner material, that typically means those boots are geared mostly towards true performance rather than longevity. So don't buy a pair of $250 football boots thinking that they're going to outlast your $100 ones, because more often than not, that's not going to be the case. While they don't necessarily want you to know this, football boot brands pay tons and tons of money to the best players in the world to wear their products. Why? Well, mainly to influence you, the consumer. For example, Messi currently wears Adidas football boots. That's because he's signed to a lifetime contract with the Three Stripes. Where a lot of people don't know this, in his younger years, he actually wore Nike boots. A very recent example of this would be Harry Kane. He used to wear Nike boots. He was under contract with them for the vast majority of his career. That contract ended. I'm assuming they didn't come to a deal, and/or Skechers came along, offered him a lifetime deal for, I'm sure, much more money than what Nike was willing to pay. He signed with them, and now he wears Skechers football boots. In other words, the best players in the world aren't picking their football boots like you and I do. They're picking their boots based on whichever company is willing to pay them the most amount of money to wear their products. Which, once you understand that aspect of how pros pick their football boots, you also need to understand that the Messi boots you can buy at the store aren't exactly the same as the Messi boots he actually wears. His boots have a totally different upper, a totally different construction across the top of the foot, a custom shaping to his foot, and who knows what else has been modified to Messi's liking. None of these things you're going to get on the retail variation. And it's not just Messi, this is something that applies to most of the best players in the world. And while some do wear versions of these football boots that are more similar to the off-the-shelf models that we can actually buy, at the very least their boots are custom formed to the shape of their feet, which makes a huge difference, where you, the consumer, need to understand, while you might really like Messi as a player and really want his football boots, if you try them on and they don't fit you properly, it's probably not the best option. In other words, just understand that what you're buying is not necessarily what the pros are wearing, despite what the marketing might suggest. When it comes to buying a pair of top-end football boots, I think most people would assume that if they buy the top price point, they are getting the best of the best in terms of what that product and what that line has on offer. And while in most cases that is true, it's very important to do your research. Watch some reviews, because sometimes you can actually spend significantly less and get something that is equally as good. The new Nike Tiempo model would be a great example of this. As great as the Legend 10 Elite is at $230, the $140 Legend 10 Pro that sits below it is 99% the same football boot, where the vast majority of people would not be able to tell the difference, where I would honestly recommend, if you just want what the new Tiempo has on offer, save $90 and go for the Pro, rather spending $230 on the Elites. The Mizuno Alpha is another great example of that. The Made in Japan model at $320 is fantastic and also extremely expensive, where the Elite model at $200 is pretty much the same boot. There are absolutely no skill level requirements when it comes to playing in a top-end pair of football boots. If you're new to the game, perhaps not of the highest skill level, and you can justify a pair of high-end football boots, it's what you want, then by all means get them. There is absolutely no skill level requirements that come along with a high-end pair of football boots, and if anything, if it's going to motivate you to practice more and play a little bit harder, then I think it can only be a good thing. And like I said earlier, you don't necessarily need them to play well, and they're definitely not going to make you a better player, but if it's something that you can justify and you're going to be spending a lot of time in them, then by all means, I think they're worth it. And of course, the same thing applies in the opposite direction. If you're a highly skilled player that's extremely experienced but only have the budget for a lower end product, don't feel like those football boots are holding you back, because I can assure you, while you might prefer the feel of a higher end one, again, they are not going to make you a better player. Nor do I think your cheaper football boots are holding you back.